Hey, my name is Robert, and I am a human services client manager here at Music Cares. A bit about Music Cares. Music Cares helps the humans behind the music because music gives so much to the world. To be a bit more specific, we provide preventative, emergency, and recovery services to any music maker that might be experiencing some type of financial need. We provide services to a wide range of the music industry, from the songwriter to the music engineer to crew, maybe the tour bus driver. If you have 5 years of paid music experience or 6 commercially released music credits, we can do our very best to help you. If you have any additional questions, you can find more information on our website, so you can visit musiccares.org. Additionally, if you have any questions about receiving services, you can send us an email at musiccaresrelief@musiccares.org. And one of my team members, they're going to drop that information in a chat. But again, thank you so much for being here. And I'm excited to get this conversation started. Today, we are going to have a conversation about credit in the Black and Brown communities. As you know, June is Black Music Appreciation Month, and we thought that it would be a good idea to acknowledge our Black and Brown music makers by spreading awareness and providing some healthy tips, some healthy tools around credit. Because many of you might know, but that credit conversation can be scary, but once it is addressed, there are a lot of benefits there. So I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker for today. We have Brandee B. Wilder. She is self-proclaimed the Black credit conversationalist. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. She also goes by B. B is a serial entrepreneur, an author, a businesswoman, and music industry professional. Her mission is to remove the stigma that exists in communities of color about talking about past financial mistakes and money, to empower people to take control of their financial futures. It is her belief that by taking away the fear and the anxiety of learning and understanding how credit works, we empower people to fight the systemic inequalities, to leverage their good credit to create powerful financial opportunities and generational wealth. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would love for you all to maybe just clap in the chat, but let's welcome B to the conversation. Brandee, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Robert. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the conversation. And as I was preparing for this conversation, I remember as a kid, I grew up also on the East Coast in a very small town in North Carolina. And so we did not have many stores, we did not have many businesses, but what we did have was this one convenience store that was down the street from our home. So once in a while, my grandma would say, "Hey, go to the store and get me some items." And so I would go to the store, I would get her these items. And she said, "When you get ready to pay, tell Mr. Ray to put it on my books." I did not know what that meant. And so Mr. Ray would pull out this black box. Inside there were index cards. He would find the card that had my grandmother's name on it. He would write down all the items that we were purchasing, maybe milk, bread, eggs, and the amount. And then he would say, "Have a good day." And I would leave without paying him. I did not know what that was. I found out later that my grandma would pay him on Fridays once she got paid. And so that was my first introduction to credit. And I was able to realize how important credit is to the Black and Brown communities, but also the benefits of having credit. And so I would love to just start by you maybe telling us, like, what is your credit story? And when did you realize that credit can benefit you and it doesn't necessarily have to harm you?
Okay, so I had my first foray with credit right when I turned 18 years old. I'm old enough to remember when you would get ready to go to college, you would get credit cards in the mail, right? You didn't have to
Yes.
apply for them. You didn't have to go online. They would come in the mail to you with your name on it. You just took the little sticker off, you signed it back, you called a number, and you were good to go. And I received one of those cards right before I got ready to go to college. And because I did not have any previous conversations with my parents or the elders in my family about the importance of credit or what credit was, I really thought it was free money.
Sure.
I got the statements in the mail and I saw like minimum payment, but because of a lack of understanding, I didn't even know that the minimum payment was not maybe a suggestion. I didn't know it was necessary. And I didn't understand how $20 would even do anything to the payment that they were asking for. I think at the time it was a $500 credit card. The minimum payment was $20 or $29 a month. And I was thinking, well, when they put more money on this card, then I can give them $29. But,
Sure.
right, what is $20 going to do if I owe you like 500? It sounds kind of dumb now with me being a grown woman, but looking back, it's those kind of misunderstandings or that ignorance about something that can cause you to start to spiral. So from there, I was walking on the campus and then I was offered another credit card. Why? I wanted a t-shirt. They had t-shirts and was like, hey, come here. If you want this t-shirt with the name of the school on it, just sign right here. And we're going to give you this t-shirt and you can apply for this credit card. And it's like, well, that's all I have to do, right? It's just give you my social security number. You're going to give me this t-shirt and then I'm going to get another credit card to match the one I already maxed out. Cool, let's do it, So
It
I
was a
get another
setup, Brandee.
it's a setup. It's a setup because why? I had no knowledge. I had
Yeah,
no understanding. I did not know what I was doing. But this time, what I did understand was because by now I started getting calls from the bank about the other credit card I had. And so I did understand after the person explained to me, you make this payment and you pay this minimal payment. And when you pay the payment down, then your credit limit will start to come back and you can use it. But what I noticed was as I paid the $29, because that's really all I had, I could barely, scrape up,
sure.
the balance stayed the same or it stayed a lot closer to what it was. It's like, okay, I'm paying $29, but I still owe you, because now I got fees, right? I got all these fees. My interest rate has gone up. I don't understand any of this, but it's like, I'm paying you this money. You're taking my money and you're not giving me the money back like you're saying, because I had no understanding. So fast forward, obviously, charging credit cards up, maxing them out and getting older. And now I'm not able to apply for any other credit. I don't understand the correlation between when you apply for credit, those are hard inquiries and your
Yeah,
score goes down with every hard inquiry. And then I don't understand that if you keep looking for credit and you're not credit worthy, you look like a credit risk. So I don't have good access to credit. And then the only companies that are offering me credit are companies that have these credit cards that give you a $250 limit, but then they charge you an annual fee of $89 as soon as they give you the card, right? So I'm in my 20s and now I'm touring in the touring industry and I'm needing to check into hotels. But I have these credit cards that really don't do anything because they have low limits. And I'm having to use my debit card with actual funds from my paycheck that's coming from being on the road. And the anxiety of that, because I'm checking into 2 and 3 and 4 hotels a week, and they're holding $150 per night that I'm staying.
sometimes 200.
Yes, 200. And this was early on. So I was staying at hotels where they weren't really, they would take it per night. So if you had, so they weren't taking 200. That didn't happen until I started traveling with a very A-list artist. And now I'm staying in these hotels that are 5-star hotels and my room is covered, but now I'm having to put down a card for incidentals, which of course, I know all of y'all, anybody that tours on the road, if you stay at a certain kind of hotel, you're like, oh, I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to eat. You don't have to worry about me doing anything. But if your tour requires you to put a card down for incidentals, then of course, you have to put your card down. And because my credit cards were either maxed or very close to the credit limits or had low credit limits, it caused me to really try to figure my life out. So I went online. I started to kind of understand that you had to pay more than the minimum on a credit card. And so I did that. And as I started paying them down, as I got money, I would pay down closer to, zero. I started getting access to more credit. And Capital One was the first credit card company that actually took a chance on me after I had defaulted on a couple of credit cards. So here I am to get to the main point. In 2013, I'm living in LA. I'm a personal assistant. I'm working in the industry for about 3 artists. So I'm rotating with these artists working. And I had, I think, $1,250 worth of credit accessible to me, and I didn't owe a whole lot of that money. So I had been doing really good. And to me, I really thought that was a major accomplishment.
Yeah.
And one day, I'm sitting in my boss's office and she calls me over and she asked me how my credit was. And I was completely stunned. And I was like, excuse me, like, ma'am. She was like, how's your credit? And so I was like, and she said, fix your credit, girl. Like, fix your credit. And I couldn't even answer. I was so stunned because, first of all, who she was, and then the fact that she would ask me,
And she essentially already knew the answer.
yes, yes, she knew the answer. She knew the answer because of my response. The thing was, I had been moving and trying to be very, strategic with how I handled myself. So it wasn't like I appeared to be having financial issues or trouble, or struggles, but people know, people can tell, people can sense. And then she knew I had my own business. She knew I had certain aspirations, and we would talk about certain things. And people that have lived long enough, people that have climbed social ladders and have attained to certain things, from having a conversation with you, they can kind of tell where you are in life. And she took that moment as an opportunity to school me and educate me and talk to me as a person of color about the importance of me really handling my business and really embracing using credit and not being ashamed of it. She never asked me, was I ashamed? She never asked me what I did or didn't know about credit. As a person of color, she approached me based on her own experiences before she became who she was. And that conversation ultimately was the catalyst for changing my life. I went back home to my apartment that night. I sat on the floor and then I got to work, and I worked on every single thing she told me to do. She told me to start with understanding exactly what credit was. And she told me to disavow myself of the notion that using credit was a trap, and to understand that it's not credit itself that was a trap, but it's the lack of information, the lack of wisdom, and then a sense of fear that has been instilled in us, right, culturally, to be afraid of credit. And that fear has stemmed from really ignorance, like, and not in a negative way, but it's just that if as a people and culturally you were taught to stay away from something, and you don't understand it, like you going to the store and getting the groceries, and as a child, I'm sure you felt like the food was free, right? Because you never exchanged money. So even though you were putting it on the books, to a child, I know what a book is, but it
I
has
thought it
no.
was magic.
See what I'm
I had no
saying?
idea.
Exactly. So me being 18, going to college, getting a credit card and thinking it's free money, even though I was 18, it's no different from you walking in the store as a child and getting a loaf of bread and the eggs and telling somebody to put it on the books, because
Yeah.
then you still didn't have a conversation with your grandmother to say, hey, I am using credit to be extended the opportunity for us to eat until
Sure.
I get money. And so that is a real issue that a lot of us face in the industry. And it's something that I struggled with 10 years ago before I had this life-changing conversation.
Sure. Speaking of the industry, I know oftentimes music makers, especially in the early stages of their career, the pay is not super consistent. We work with clients here at Music Cares, and they get paid on neck 30 or neck 60. And so for months, they may not receive a check from a gig that was done. And so a question for you is, what's the best way to handle credit in between gigs?
Okay. Two questions for you. Are these people W-2 employees, or are they contract workers? Because if they're doing net 30, 60, and 90, then they sound like they're contract workers, right?
Contract workers, yes.
Okay. So the first thing that I would suggest for any of us in the industry that is a contract worker is for you to establish an LLC for yourself. If you do not have a bona fide company that you have started because you are making, if being in this industry is what you have decided that you want to do, and you will be a contract worker, you need to legitimize yourself as a company or a corporation.
Good.
The reason why I say that is there are a lot of benefits to incorporating yourself or starting an LLC. There's you get to avoid certain types of taxation, and then you also can use that to leverage and build business credit that you can use separately from your personal credit. So the first thing I would tell a person to do is incorporate themselves or consider starting an LLC. When you start an LLC, you can go to the IRS website, irs.gov, and you can request an EIN number, which is completely free. An EIN is free. You don't have to use any of these services that'll charge you money to get you an EIN. That's an employment identification number, and it's basically a social security number for a business. You cannot even have business yet, and you can select when you get this EIN that you have started a new business and you would like to get the EIN just for the purpose of opening a business bank account. You don't need to say you've made any revenue, any of that. The IRS will give you an EIN. Then you take that EIN, you take your articles of incorporation or your business license, and you go into a bank and you ask them, can you open a basic business checking account? Now, when you do this, now when your clients send you money, they should be making you payments to the name of your business, or they can also make the payments to you, but you deposit everything into this business checking account. Why? Because you're establishing income history, right, with these banks. If your personal credit is already somewhat, decent, when you go to apply for this business checking account, you can ask them, can they see if you pre-qualify for either a line of credit or a credit card without a hard pull to your credit report?
Tell us what that means, a hard pull.
A hard pull is anytime you go to apply for credit, whether it is a line of credit, a credit card, a car loan, a secured loan, an unsecured loan with the bank, they will check your credit. They'll take your social security number and then they pull your credit to pull your credit report to see if they are going to lend to you. They're looking at your previous lending history to see if you are considered a viable or a qualified borrower to them based on whatever bank you're trying to get funds with. And so once you get that hard inquiry, it usually takes anywhere from 2 to 5 points off your credit score. And that stays, the effects of that inquiry stays about 6 months. And then after about 6 months, it levels off. And in 2 years, that hard inquiry will fall off of your credit report, and then it has no impact to you. But that's how you do it. So that's one of the things I would tell people to legitimize themselves as a corporation, because then it goes into, now that you have this corporation and now that you're self-employed, which you don't need a corporation or an LLC to do this, but a person should take funds and open up a Roth IRA to start paying for retirement. Because if you're not W-2, that means you're technically not paying into Social Security in your retirement. So you need to make sure that you are putting away for the future, because this season of us being out here on the road and making the kind of money that you make, whether you're first starting out or you're in the twilight or the middle of your career where you're making a lot of money, you need to be putting away for the future. Now, if you don't want to do any of that, and you are a contract worker and you're trying to figure out how to bridge the gap, then you need to look at your credit report to see where your credit stands. Sure. Everyone is considered, we're classified as borrowers. A lot of people don't know that. And so ways we get hard inquiries, you have a 630 credit score and you go and you pray and cross your fingers and hope that American Express or Discover will give you a credit card. We don't need to do that anymore. One thing I want everyone to understand is we're classified as borrowers, and your credit score will determine what banks will actually approve you. So there's deep prime, subprime, near prime, prime, and super prime. Those are your levels to the credit classification. So one thing I tell people is, and it's like a tip, if you need credit and you're desperate for some type of credit, find those banks that lend to people within the classification of where your credit is. So super prime credit is normally 720 to 740, but like an American Express or a Discover, or even some of the top tier Capital One cards, they want you to be around 740, 760. 680, sometimes people will say, well, American Express will approve you, and they will. But I teach people in my classes, it's like, try to get to the 700 mark, because you don't even want to risk, hard inquiries when you go to prime banks. And there's nothing wrong. I'll tell everyone here, if you have never defaulted on a Capital One card and you are looking for credit to establish credit, Capital One is an amazing resource for people to get a first credit card. They have secured cards, which means that whatever amount you start with, that is the amount that you will have. Capital One used to let you increase your credit limit, but now they don't let you do that. So however you go in, that's the card you'll have. So you could start with a secured card. But if you start with a secured card, that means that you're putting money there to back it. So if you are having a hard time with getting your hands on liquid and you don't have any money to put into a secured card, go to Capital One. You can go into Google and put Google Capital One pre-qualification without impact to my credit score. And Capital One's site will pop up and it will give you a link, and you can put in your information and you can put how much you make, and Capital One will tell you whether or not you're pre-approved for a card without a hard inquiry to your credit score. And that's major. Yeah. American Express also does the same thing. And any credit card company that you may desire a credit card with, you can Google to see if they do that. Not all credit card companies do that, but Capital One and both American Express allow you to see if you're pre-approved and pre-qualified without a hit to your credit report. But find a card within your credit classification. If you need to know, I will matter of fact, while we're talking and you ask me another question, I'll put in those scores so people can understand the credit classifications. And again, Google's your best friend, y'all. So go on Google, I have a 600 credit score. Who will approve me? Like, talk to Google like that. Whatever you think when it comes to credit, when you start learning, that's how I did it. That's how I got all the knowledge I have, besides going, into the library and going to the bookstores and reading books. I would Google everything. And then you look at certain resources to make sure that you're verifying that the information is correct. Then pick up the phone, call banks. If you have a bank that you work with, I have other banks, like I bank with Wells Fargo, I bank with other banks, but my prime source of lending is my credit union. Credit unions are an amazing way to not only help you get access to lending, but they also help you build your credit, because credit unions are not going to help you overextend yourself when it comes to credit. They are liberal, but they're very stringent. So that is a good tool for someone that's starting to understand credit and trying to get their feet wet. And ask them. They also have builder loans they'll give you that are secured and backed. So you want to get access to a credit card, and then you want to use that credit card to bridge the gap. But if you want to avoid impact to your credit score, this is a big thing. So you see the due date when you get your statement on a credit card. A lot of us say, okay, well, I paid, I wasn't late with my due date when I paid my credit card, right? But if you go to, I use Credit Karma, not for my credit score, but to see when everything is reported. If you have Experian.com, if you have Credit Sesame, all of them will tell you in a section when your credit card company last spoke with the credit bureaus. It says the date that it was updated. If you make a payment on your credit card to bring the balance down or to pay whatever you plan to pay at least 5 days before the date that it was reported, then that balance won't report to the credit bureaus and it won't affect your credit score. So it helps you build credibility with the bank, and it helps to raise your credit score, because say, like you're saying, a person 30 days, I'm getting my money and I'm going to have it. Well, if you already made one payment, so that's the 30-day window, but that next 30 days, you can catch it before the 15. So you could be strategic and say, okay, well, I'm gonna get this money in 30 days. I already made a payment. So that means, take your pen, get your pencil, look at the calendar and say, I want to make this payment because I don't want, the credit bureaus to take points away from my score because I still owe this $1,000 on this credit card. So when I get paid, I can't pay the whole $1,000, but I'm gonna put $500 on that, and it last reported on June 15th. So I'm gonna make this payment on July 10th. So it'll show that I made the $500 payment, as opposed to waiting till whenever your statement says that you can pay it, because
Right.
most credit cards have a grace period. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Thank you for stating that, and then also for putting it in the chat, because I know someone had asked, what is a decent credit score? And I think you just answered that.
Yeah, well, a decent credit score, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, good credit starts at like 760. So if you have good credit, it's 670. 670 to 739 is considered good credit. 670 to 739. 740 to 799 is considered very good credit. And then 800 to 850 is exceptional or excellent. So you want to be kind of like in that good range. If you can get your score at first to 670, that will start to help open up the doors for better lending opportunities and lower interest rates on money that you borrow from banks. So that when we talk about having good credit, a lot of times culturally, when we talk about good credit, usually we talking about a 700 or above credit score. Like from all of my friends and the people I know, they be like, girl, you got a 700. Oh my goodness, and so 700 is considered good. But if you want to be exceptional or excellent, shoot for like that six, like, that 680 to be like, okay, I'm gonna apply for some credit that's, not, I shouldn't say the name of a bank, but there are other banks out there. 680 will get you starting to look in the American Express direction. And I say that because touring, when you start talking to people and they talk about building credit, everybody want an American Express card, right? If I can just get that American Express, it's elusive because of all the work they put into building the brand. But you don't even look at American Express if you don't have a 680 credit score. Don't do it. Don't pray and apply. Don't do any of that, because those are hard inquiries that stay on your credit report. And if you have defaulted recently on any kind of credit, leave American Express, leave Discover, leave Citibank, all of those banks alone, because those are prime banks and they won't touch your credit profile if you have those things. So that's something important to know.
Thank you for speaking about the hard inquiries, because I know of a client who was needing a car and so applied for multiple car loans and didn't realize that that would take a hit on their credit. And so if you could please talk to us a bit about what a soft inquiry is, and then what are the differences between the two?
Okay, well, let me go back to something, because you said something and I want to make sure everyone understands something, because it's also a misconception. And I did just put those FICO ranges so people can understand those, and I'm gonna put the prime. When you apply for a car loan, a house loan, or particular loans, even though you have a lot of inquiries, technically within a certain window, those are only considered one inquiry. A lot of people think that if you go and you apply for a car, you can go to CarMax and they're trying to finance you. And then you look on your credit report and it's like, oh my goodness, I have 8 inquiries because they went to 8 banks. Even though you see those 8 hard inquiries, those inquiries based on the model that they use to score you and the algorithms. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm going to do this to everyone. For some reason, they said they didn't see a host and panelists. I don't see the option to share with everyone.
We'll make sure that we put it in the group chat.
So you saw that, right? You saw it. Okay,
Anita,
perfect.
if you could just put what Brandee put into the group chat, that'd be great.
So those count as one inquiry. The same as when you're looking for a house, but you have a certain window though. You can't just, you can't apply for a car today and then in August be like, well, it's supposed to be one inquiry. I'm looking for a car. There's a window you have to use. So, but if you're like within a week's time or even 2 weeks time, you're looking for car loans, that's considered one inquiry when they start looking at the algorithms to rate your credit score. So just know that. That's why it's important to be strategic. That's a way to be strategic. If you are just window shopping for a car, if you're just window shopping for a house, because a lot of people that don't understand how credit works, especially when your credit is somewhat challenged, right? And you're looking to see what options are available, people will go to a car dealership or they'll go online and try to get a pre-approved for a home loan, but you really know that you're not anywhere close to being able to afford or even get a house. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
No, don't do it. It's not worth it, and it's not wise. For one reason, it's a hard inquiry. And so it's going to take points away from your credit score. And if you already are at a certain level, going back to credit classifications, one inquiry could change your credit classification. When you change your credit classification, you also change what banks and lenders will lend to you. And when you change the bank or lender that will lend to you, then that you can go into those, deep subprime loans and the subprime loans that cost you a lot more interest. So those inquiries matter when it comes to whether you're buying a car or whether you're buying a house. So be careful, because like the difference, prime credit starts at 660. So if you go and you apply for a loan that you know that you really aren't going to get, you could drop yourself into the near prime range, and then near prime, affects your interest rate. And if you're talking about a car, that could be anywhere between 12 to 72 months, right? A house, it could be anywhere from 15 to 40 years. So yes, we need to take it seriously when we look at these hard inquiries. Like, hard inquiries matter. And if you talk to people that have good credit, and if you talk to me, like 2012 Brandee would have been like, oh, let me see. Let me just, Lord, please, like, help me, Jesus, God, please. I promise this time I'm gonna pay this. That's the Brandee, 2012 Brandee would have done that. Yes. The 2023 Brandee sits, and I'm like, okay, all right, my credit score is this. If I make this inquiry, let me look and see how my credit looks. I'm researching companies. I'm trying to figure out. I call. People think I'm crazy, but it works. You call. You can go into your credit union or your bank, and you can, before you apply, you can straight up ask them, what credit score are y'all gonna be looking for me to get X, Y, and Z? I need to talk to people. In our community, we are afraid to ask questions. That's one of the biggest things I want to tell y'all. Stop being afraid. Okay. Our counterparts, not only do they talk about pretty much everything, they ask whatever question. There is no, you've heard the saying, there is no dumb question. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. That's real. And most people in a professional capacity, they want to talk about what they do. They want to give you information. They want to give you the knowledge. The thing is, a lot of times pride keeps most of us, not just Black and brown people, it keeps us afraid to ask questions. So the people that actually learn things and actually grow are the people that ask the questions. So ask questions. The bank, ask questions. Stop getting these, when you go to Target and Macy's, stop applying for these cards at these counters where these people are just trying to meet quotas because they're trying to keep their job, or they're trying to win a gift card. Because this is the thing, when you apply for those kind of cards, yes, they give you a line of credit and it helps you to start to establish credit. But do you really want to just only be able to shop at Target or Kohl's or Macy's, so if it does not have a Visa or an American Express or a MasterCard or a Discover logo, try to stay away from them. Because the thing is, if you can only use that card in that store, that's a part of a trap, because now you find yourself going to Target for everything when it may be cheaper. You see what I'm saying? It may be cheaper to go to Walmart. It may be cheaper to go to Family Dollar or the Dollar General. Like, until your coins come up, until you stack your coins and get to a certain place, you have to operate and maneuver. We all know that. I've been there. Like, when I started in this industry, I had to learn how to juggle, right? We had to learn how to figure it out. Okay, like you said, I'm gonna get paid in 30 days, or I'm gonna get paid in 14 days. And I'm going out here. Sometimes when you're a contract worker, you have to get reimbursed for your expenses. So you definitely have to be conscious of the things that you're doing so that you can make sure that you're not doing anything to harm you on the road to where it is you're trying to go.
Absolutely. I love, Brandee, that we're having this conversation. I feel like in the most recent years, mental health and credit has been something that we're talking about more. And those are the very two things that there is stigma around in our communities. Jay-Z has this quote in the story of OJ. You want to know what's more important than throwing money in a strip club? Credit. And then he
Credit.
goes on, credit. He goes on to talk about financial freedom.
Yeah.
And so I love that we're having these conversations now. And so also what I've been seeing is that there has been a rise of people that's doing credit repair. And so I guess the question for you is there a credible credit repair source that you could suggest, or should people maybe steer away from the credit repair industry?
Okay. Here we go. Full disclosure. Years ago, I used a credit repair service and it kind of worked. I was paying at the time, this was maybe 14 years ago. I think I paid them $50 a month until I got to where I wanted to be on my credit report. And they were sending letters to the credit bureaus. I had no idea what they were sending, what they were saying. I gave them access to my social security number. And at that time, it wasn't as technologically advanced. So the credit reports would come to me and I would send them to them. I would fax them or email them over to them. And then they would respond on my behalf. And that kind of worked. But I did it for like a year and a half. So if you look at $50 a month, for a year and a half, that's like what? Let's do the math real quick. That's 600. So did I pay what? $900? I paid somebody, is that $900? So I paid $900, right? And at that time, I may not have even had $900 worth of debt, honestly, that I owed, right? But I did it because I had heard that they could get stuff or like get stuff deleted off your credit report, and they did. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was worth every dollar. And then they talked me into keep doing it so they can monitor it for me and keep it. But the whole time over this process, I never understood what was going on. Now, to answer your question, there are reputable credit repair companies out there. Would I recommend one? No. Why? Because it's case by case. I don't know what a person's situation is, and I don't know if you really need credit repair. The best thing you can do if you have credit that needs healing is you need to first, most people be like, my credit is bad, I'm nervous, I'm scared, and they never look at their credit report.
Right.
That's the first thing. I know I have bad credit. I'm just scared to look at my credit report. Y'all stop being scared. It doesn't matter. First of all, again, I'm going back to our counterparts. We got to get some boldness and we got to understand it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. The only person that cares that you have bad credit is yourself in any bank or lender or company you go to get your lights turned on and you want to go to AT&T and get a phone. Those are the people that care about your credit. People personally in your circle, nobody cares about how your credit is. So we got to get out of, let's break the stigma about talking about like bad credit, or even I had to file bankruptcy. Who cares? Our last president is proof positive that it does nothing to you when you file bankruptcy, okay? It's not the end of the world. While I haven't filed before, I know people very close to me that have, and they're just fine. So disavow yourself of the notion that if you file bankruptcy, you're a failure and that you can't look at your credit report. So rip the Band-Aid off. If anybody's watching right now, you scared of your credit, if you need to call me or email me, I'm gonna give y'all my information. I'll sit on the phone with you while you pull your credit reports and help you get through the process. Pull your credit reports so you can see what's on there.
Yeah.
Understand this. Once you see what's on your credit report, get to work yourself. You can type in Google, I have a collection for X, Y, and Z on my credit report. Is there a letter for that? Google will, for free, give you a template for the letter you can send to the credit bureaus. Because a lot of times you pay these people and they've literally gotten a book from Barnes and Noble, or they've gone online and pulled up a credit repair letter that's accessible and free to everyone. So do it yourself. And in the process of repairing your own credit, you start to understand what you're doing. Most places, when they talk about credit repair, all they're doing is they're not even disputing whether what's on your credit report is factual. It's not about if it belongs to you. It's about if the information about the particular item is correct down to the very last detail. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, it protects consumers from allowing credit bureaus and companies reporting information that is inaccurate. So if Equifax said you defaulted in May of 2022, and TransUnion and Experian say you defaulted in April of 2022, you get one of those templates and you say, I would need you to please remove this from my credit report because this is not factual. Equifax is saying that I owed this and I defaulted at this time, and Experian and TransUnion is saying that I defaulted at this time on these dates. Based on the Fair Credit Reporting Act, this is a violation of my consumer rights because this information is incorrect. I ask you to please remove this right now because it's doing me harm. And those credit bureaus, by law, if they see, they go in and say, hey, you know what? They are not reporting the same information. See, they may report the information at different times, but once stuff hits our credit reports, they should all be saying the same thing if it's the same account. So a lot of people don't know that. You're not disputing, oh, that was my account. No, is the information correct? Is it correct down to the T, down to the cent? I tell people, oh, it's $1 off, then that's not right. But then for you to know it's $1 off, you also have to understand what's going on with your accounts. You can't just default on stuff and then run away and be afraid to, understand what's going on. You got to know, look, all right, I owe this $350.22. All right, make a note of it. Don't be afraid of it because everybody has something they're struggling with, right? So your debt, sure. The mistakes you made, whether you just were bad with money, whether you were out here balling out of control because you have no self-control, but now you realize the importance. You need this house, you need this car because you need to, do whatever. Wherever you are today, start understanding that you need to make a plan and you need to keep good records. I have a book that I give in my classes to everyone, and it says it's the master plan, right? And I teach people to have folders like this where it has pockets so that you can write down information. And when you send letter to the credit bureaus and when you get correspondence like a collection notice or a collection letter, you put it in the folder so you can keep track of everything that starts coming. Also, if you get a letter from a creditor or a bill collector, you can go back to the original company and ask them to send you what your final balance was, or send you maybe the last 2 or 3 billing statements, because you want to verify what they're telling you owe is actually what you owe, because that's something that a lot of us do. We'll just accept it. Then the other thing is, going back to credit repair, when you start to repair your credit, don't think that you need to try to go pay everybody that you owe, because it's some people you don't need to try to pay that money. If you've been running away from a place for 6 years and 8 months, and now you all of a sudden had this come to Jesus moment, and now you want to fix your credit, don't go pay them. Don't call them to make a payment arrangement. And it's been 6 years and 8 months, because guess what? In 4 months, that's about to fall off your credit report, and you will no longer have to worry about it being on your credit report. But if you call to make a payment, I don't care if it's $2,000 and you make a $50 payment arrangement, the day you call them and accept that you owe that money, even though it's supposed to fall off in 4 months, by law, you have re-aged that debt, and now they can put it back on your credit report, and now you have to start paying it another 7 years, or you pay it completely off when you were almost, I hate to say it, but let's keep it real, sure. You were almost off the hook, right?
And I had no idea that was a thing. I'm so grateful that you brought that to our attention. I knew about the 7-year period, but I didn't know, like, even if you call a few months before, then you're essentially agreeing for another 7 years of debt.
Yes, you re-age that debt. Also, there's something called time barred debt. A lot of us, because I'm addressing this, because I did the same thing and I didn't understand. Because when I was serious about fixing my credit and getting this perfect credit we chased, I was like, I came to Jesus. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not running from anybody. I'm gonna pay everybody the world I owe. And I didn't realize I didn't need to do that. Research what state you live in and find out the time barred debt laws. Time barred debt is based on how you owe and how much you owe and who you owe. there's a statute of limitations for those companies to come after you to sue you. This information is good for when you get those letters from a company you be like, what is this? What is this for? You know, like I'm still every now and then I get letters in there to Brandee George. That's how I know it's an old debt, because I was married for almost 16 years. So it's like, if you're looking for Brandee George, I haven't owed you this money for at least 16 years. So you see what I'm saying? So it's time
I do.
barred. But most collection agencies, they prey on our ignorance. That's not cultural, that's consumeral. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? And when you get words like collection and bureau and federal and law, they put all these little nuances and letters and use certain words, and it makes you afraid. And then we shut down. Either we call and we shake it in our boots, and then we agree to terms that aren't favorable. If you're going to call a collection agency, let me say this now. I know I'm saying a lot, so stop me when you need to, Rob. When you call a collection agency, never admit fault for the debt. I don't care how honest you are. Never tell them it's my debt. You call them and you say, I'm calling because I got a letter from you all that says that I owe X, Y, and Z. State the amount. I need you to send me where you got this information, and I need to see a complete billing of the total, because I need to verify this amount, and I need to verify who this account belonged to. What company is this for? And they'll say, well, are you saying that this isn't your debt? I'm saying, I don't know if it's my debt, because I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. You were on my credit report, or I got this letter in the mail. You be calm and cool with them, but you don't be afraid of them. Understand this: if a person answers at a debt collection agency, they are no better than you. All right. They don't have any strange mystical power. They can't throw you in jail. So stop letting these people, intimidate you into making deals. You get people to say, well, we can't talk to you if you're not willing to set up a payment arrangement. By law, you have to talk to me. And by law, you have to send me correspondence so that I can research this to know if it is my debt. I'm not
Right.
going to tell you it's my debt if I don't know. You may know it's your debt, but not only are you buying more time before they can report it as a collection, this is if it's not on your collections in your credit report, because this is important. Stop me if I'm talking too fast, but I want to make sure y'all get all this information, especially when it comes to healing your credit, because it's super important. A letter from a collection agency does not necessarily mean that it's a collection on your credit report. Those are two different things. A collection agency is usually a company that has been hired by a lender, a bank, or someone you owed money, and they're contacting you to collect. So either they were hired by who you originally owed the money, or they bought your debt from a bank or a company from pennies on a dollar. And the thing about, and again, go to Google. When you get a letter, Google who sent you the letter to find out, did they buy this debt? If it's really, really old, 9 times out of 10, the bank has charged it off. They've taken a hit. Well, they've taken a loss, which they never take a loss because they get it back. And they sell it for pennies on a dollar. And now the reason why people are so aggressive is they call you because if you owed $1,000, they may have paid $150 for it, right? And now their job is to get whatever they can from you above the $150 they paid for this debt. So that's why you get a letter and it'll be like, you owe $3,486.72. But if I'm talking too fast. Thank you for saying that, because I do talk fast. So I'm gonna slow down. If you get a letter that allows you to be able to pay less, look and see if your finances align with that, and if it's something that's going to work. But also, you want to do that if they're going to delete it off of your credit report.
Gotcha.
If it's, you see what I'm saying? So
I do. Quick question, Brandee. Sorry.
okay.
So jump in. So we're talking about researching and making sure that everything is legit. Quick question. When we're researching for ourselves, maybe we're not speaking to a credit repair agent. How do we know the information online is legit or not?
Where is the information coming from that you're looking at online? Is it from like where you Google?
Correct.
Well, you're going to look at multiple sources, and you're going to look at legitimate sources. Say, for example, Experian.com, Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, Equifax, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. These are all places where the CFPB, their main goal is to protect consumers, right? Well, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, they all make money by reporting our credit reports and giving us tools to manage credit. So you would automatically assume if it's Experian.com that the source is reliable. So now, but if you look, and then for example, say if someone stumbled upon the blackcreditconversation.com or blackcreditconversation.com, I have certain information on my website, like I have on my website about the credit classifications. We'll take that information and paste it in Google and then see if what I said on my website comes up anywhere else that's considered a reliable source. And that's how you can kind of, check the information. And usually several sites should say the same thing. And when it comes to credit, though, there are nuances and variations, and that is because all people's credit scores aren't going to be the same because all information isn't reported to every credit reporting agency. So
great point. I'm going to jump in because for Tom, I would love to play like a quick little activity. It's true or false.
okay.
And I'm going to just read a statement. You can let us know if it's true or false, and then maybe tell us a bit why in like a brief sentence. All right. So the first one, it takes a lot of money to have good credit.
False. You do not need any money at all actually to have good credit. You just need to pay what you say you'll owe for anything reporting on your credit report. So whatever, if you open a credit card account and they give you $1,000 limit or $500 limit, if you charge up $150 and your minimum payment is $29, pay that $29. You do not need a lot of money or make a lot of money to pay $29. Pay what you owe if it's reporting on your credit report. That's how you get good credit.
Nice. 2, all bills are reported on my credit.
No, not all bills are reported on your credit report. Most things like your utilities, your phone bill, like cell phone bill, if you have a landline, most people don't anymore. Xfinity, if you have cable, those things don't go on your credit report unless you use like Experian to boost those things on your credit report, which I would say something about that, but I don't have no time, so we're gonna keep moving.
Okay, next one. You already answered it, but just for clarity, after 7 years, all debt is automatically deleted from a credit score.
After 7 years, most debt is removed from your credit report, unless it is a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Usually that is 10 years from your credit report, but most other debt falls off.
Nice. Next one. Paying more than the minimum amount and on time increases my credit score.
Yes. As you pay it off and you pay it down, because you are improving your credit history and your payment history, which is a large portion of how you get your credit score.
Good job. 5, the fastest way to increase a credit score is to pay off the credit card and never use it again.
The fastest way to increase your credit score, that is false. It's false because the first part is good. Paying off your credit card, yes, because that's revolving debt. Any revolving debt you have, which revolving debt is that the balance that you owe can change from month to month. So a car loan is not revolving debt. That is an installment loan. A line of credit, though, is a line of credit that you use and change the monthly amount to. That's revolving debt, like a credit card. So you pay that off. That has the most impact to your credit score, but then you need to keep using the card so they don't close it, so that you don't lower your credit score. But if you don't use the card, just use it every now and then, but don't close the account, because then you re-age or you diminish how long that credit file has been open. And a part of credit age is a part of how you get your credit score.
Yeah, so good, Brandee. Thank you. Next one. Is it impossible for people over 50 to tackle their bad credit history?
That is false. It is never too late to improve your credit report, like never. And a lot of times you don't need 7 years to improve it. You could send letters and you can change the trajectory of your credit report over the course of 30 to 60 days. It just depends on what challenges you face on your credit report. I don't care if you're 100. If you're 100 and you're still alive, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian know you're still here. So
Yeah,
keep going.
absolutely. Okay, next one, just a few more. I don't have to focus on my personal credit because I have business credit.
False, because usually establishing business credit requires you to be a personal guarantor when you first start off, even if you have an EIN. So usually they're going to check your personal credit first to see if you paid your personal bills before they give you money on the business side. I don't care what Instagram says. Okay.
Okay. All right. The last one, I think you already answered it earlier, but simply applying for multiple car loans and or for apartments decreases my credit score.
That is false. No, because uh yeah, they're counted as one inquiry when you are shopping for like a car loan. Apartment
Yeah.
is a little different. And also, can I okay, keep going.
Please. No, you got it. You got it.
I want to say something about the apartment thing too. For people, like if you ever had like an eviction on your credit report, if you have an eviction does not automatically go on your credit report. It goes on your credit report once it goes into collections. And that's if you lived at someone's house and you were renting it from them personally. And a lot of times, unless a person is using like a company to actually manage the property for them, they won't report you to a credit bureau because it takes time and money to do that. So just know that you automatically, if you had to default on an apartment, it doesn't go on your credit report unless it becomes a collection. So the best thing you can do is to try to communicate with that apartment complex and set up a payment arrangement of some sort that you can actually afford to keep it from going on your credit report, especially if you have dreams of owning a home or you need to secure another apartment.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, Brandee, thank you so much for your time today. I have just two more questions before we wrap up. This is actually a question from one of our attendees. What is something most people are totally unaware of regarding financial literacy in the Black and Brown communities?
One thing that most people are not aware of is that you don't need to be white and you don't need to be rich. I'm gonna keep it 100. You said that earlier, but you do not need access to a lot of money to have great credit. And I say this and I mean it with everything in my heart based on my experiences. We say that money talks, but I teach people that it's credit that holds the conversations.
Come on, Brandee.
Y'all, so I want y'all to write that down. I want y'all to repeat after me in your head. Money talks, but credit holds conversations.
Put
And
it in the
that is,
chat, y'all.
yeah, like money talks. Yeah, y'all put that in the chat for me because that's real. And the reason it's so important for people to understand that is when you start to think about the things you're going to sacrifice when money gets low and funds get low, don't sacrifice those minimum payments if you can help it. Even if you need to get your hair done, your nails done, your a haircut, you need a fly outfit. Because when you miss that minimum payment, not only do you damage the relationship you have with that bank, usually they charge you a fee, right? So you have a fee for missing the payment. Usually there is a penalty where they raise your APR